I've had a few people ask me questions about how to take better photos on their motorbike adventures, or just adventures in general. And the advice I've got won't matter what type of camera you've got, whether that be a high-end camera or just your basic phone camera. The difference between the two, with your high-end camera, you can adjust all the parameters and you need to know how to do that. With a phone camera, they're thinking that most people haven't studied photography, so they go for the averages, which in some situations you'll still get really good images because those averages meet up with the conditions you're shooting in, and other times not so good. But with AI soon probably coming to your phones, it's going to be able to look at what you're pointing the camera at and probably work out those settings a lot better more often. But that's just camera settings, and that's only a small part of what photography is. Some of the main parts are where you point the camera and why. And your camera can't actually help you with that. So I'll go through some basic things that should help you get some better images. The last ride I did, I was more focused on landscape type of photos. Whereas the next one I'm doing, I'm more focused on telling the story of the adventure. And that's probably what most people will be doing on their adventures. So we can start there. When you're about to take a photo, think about how that photo can help you tell the story of your adventure, whether that be for yourself to look back at or to share with others. For example, when I was in Tasmania, I got told about a small mountain that had an epic view of the sunset. So I hiked to the top and came across this stunning lake. So when I turned around to the west, the sunset had painted the sky in this amazing orange. So this is where I camped on top of the mountain that night. The other point there is how a sequence of images can help tell the story. Like a scene from a movie, all the different shots, you can do the same thing with images. You might have photos where you get to a location and everybody gathers together and they look down the lens and everybody smiles and says cheese, which is quite a staged image. And that actually comes from the history of photography where cameras needed time to actually get an exposure, so you had to stand really still. But there is a different way to take photos. Think of it as a photojournalist. You're telling the story of the adventure. So what happened? For example, on this motorbike trip, when my mates ran out of fuel again and again and again. You don't actually need people to engage with the camera to tell the story. Like here with my niece in front of the lolly store. You know there's something yummy in that shop. Or here on a backcountry expedition in Canada, nobody's looking at the camera, they're focused on their adventure. So there are a few pointers of the why. Think about the story you're trying to tell and what you're trying to communicate. And that could just be a feeling. Now, pointing the camera. There are a few ideas here that link together, so I'll try and explain. Framing the shot. Most people think about what's in the frame, but it's also important to think about what to exclude from the frame, if there's anything distracting from the subject. Then move the camera or move your feet. Remember, you're telling the story here, so you get to choose what to show. Another thing that goes along with this is what is the subject of the photo? Keeping the photo simple enables the viewer to understand it better. So here we know the tree's the main subject, and you can probably work out these. Rowing boat at sunset, reaching the ocean, playing frisbee at sunset, and the amount of flies here are obviously the subject. I mean, something like a market in Southeast Asia where there's chaos and everything's happening, that is the actual subject. So the chaos, everything is the subject. So remember, there's no wrong when taking a photo. So keeping the image simple is a way for you to get the viewer to focus on the subject. And there are other ways to do this, like leading lines. People are drawn to lines in the world and in images. So you can use this to point them to the subject. Like here with the hills pointing to the motorbike. Or here, your eyes follow the road up to the horizon. And the lines don't have to be straight, like here on a track in Canada. Or this ski run in the snow in Japan. Or this path leading the viewer's eye towards the lighthouse in the distance. There is also the angle of the bike and tent. Like lines, it draws the viewer's eye in the direction they are facing to the horizon. Another is colour. So you can use colour to draw the viewer's eye to the subject. Like this tent pops out from the earth, or at night, or this one on top of a mountain in Canada in the snow. And in this image, the ochre dirt draws your eye to the left of the image. Here, the orange on the motorbike stands out from the earthy greens and browns in the background. Or you can use colour in reverse, like here where the colour is in the background, so it silhouettes the subject and draws the eye. And the same again here with the island, here with the sailing boat, and here with the bird. So before you take a photo, ask yourself why. How does this help tell the story of my adventure? Also, when things are happening, that's the time to get the camera out. And as I've mentioned, when you take the photo, think about how you're going to guide the viewer's eye, using framing, simplicity, leading lines, and colour. I mean, obviously, this is just scratching the surface. There are many more points I could make to help, but we'll leave that for another time. By simply just practicing and taking more photos and thinking about it before you take the photo, over time you'll start to actually see more images and more possibilities of great photos. On my next trip, I might actually go through the process of what I'm thinking when taking some of these photos. Hopefully this helps you on your next trip to take better photos of your adventures. And lastly, can you tell what I did in these photos?